What's going on, y'all? It's J Smo Reviews here, back at it again with another video. First day of like the 3-leg New York Battle Rap Marathon, right? And we are bringing you the Cancel Christmas recap here. As you can also see in the title, we're going to be doing a Jazz versus Bigg K, more detailed review, second half. Obviously, the biggest, most important battle of the card, main event. So regardless of the result of the battle, how good or bad it may have been, going to be doing more detailed breakdown. But overall, scoring for the card, I'd give it a 6. Borderlining on a 5. Definitely not the best card. I think COTY versus Couture not being on it hurt it a lot. I think that would have given it star power boost, and I think both of them had a really good chance to be great in this setting. So I think that could have risen it up. But overall, if it wasn't a lopsided battle, footage quality will be in question here. You have a couple, really one standout performance, but not too much competitiveness for the most part. You get some 30s, and the battles are competitive, end up not being the best. So for me, it's teetering more towards what the Yoshi 40 grudge card looked like, maybe some of other Remy's events, as opposed to an anniversary card or an I Do What I Want, which really was a main event-based event. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't exactly the most thorough event, battle for battle either. But I think here, everything was set up. I think the league, you know what I'm saying, in terms of venue, audio quality had some dips here and there, but nothing crazy. I think the stage was set, and overall material just didn't meet up in a few of these battles. We could just start out from the first battle of the card. Taz versus Shice Raw opener, and I know there's kind of low expectations for a battle like this going in. Shice Raw's ceiling is extremely limited. It's just hard for her to put together, let alone an explosive performance, an explosive round. And then Taz is the newcomer who people didn't really know too much about. And the footage is a little, she's clearly got energy and effort that she shows, but it's not the most polished. So going into the battle, you get low expectations. I think it kind of meets that. I got to give credit to Taz. She won this one 3-0 clear, in my opinion. The third can kind of be debated because they both there's just a dip from her. I don't think Shice did too much better than her first 2 rounds, but slightly better. So I see argument for the third, but I give it to Taz clear. Shice just doesn't, on a content bar for bar basis, she's not competing. I mean, it's just some of it is like a setup that has no punch. It's just a long setup, and it's not like you got a punch, but then it just leads. It's like long setups leading into long setups, which just create dry spots, and that's what it feels like for most of her first 2 rounds. There's just really not much of anything scoring, and I'll give it to Taz that she definitely wins off of her charisma. Like, I think that you can just see she's putting forth effort, energy. Now, is it always the best? I don't think her rapping is necessarily the smoothest. I don't think her delivery is the most polished, but she was doing something. And even though there's a lot of fat jokes, a little bit of wordplay here and there, a couple raw flips and stuff like that, overall, not the craziest performance, but something you can build off of. She's obviously early in her career, and there's a little bit there that makes her unique with that chaotic energy. The torture pockets, talking about killing children and whatnot, I'd rather not. I'd rather her just not do that. I know that she's saying that's part of her style, but it's not. It's just really not a good part. It leads to cringy portions, dry spots, missed bars. It's unnecessary. But for the most part, just did more, won the battle extremely clear in her Chrome debut. So shout out to her. And then from there, we can get into E Heart versus QB. Pretty decent battle, and I think almost by default ends up being kind of battle of the night, right? You get into the first round of this battle, extremely competitive from both. I think E Heart right off rip is showing you that she's rapping. Like, I mean, just the actual delivery, the cadence, the grit and aggression and flow. There's so many things E Heart does good in this battle, but I think that from round 1 was shown just the level she was rapping at. And I think particularly in the first, QB is able to match that with some good punching, a very improved bar for bar QB. I think it's her best round. The first is extremely debatable to me, but it's also the only debatable round in my opinion. I'm not mad at anyone that's got, QB edge in the first. I personally edge Heart the first, but I think QB did enough to close that gap. And as you get into the second, E Heart's second is so by far and away the best round of this event. And I could go on and on. The how'd you die from a heart beating. The necklace bar was actually in the first round, but I thought that was crazy. The impotent, like you're gonna have to see it for yourself. But the way that E Heart was flowing through this battle was absolutely magnificent. I thought that she was chaining together jabs in the first, but I think as you get into the second round of this battle, it's no longer chaining together jabs, it's chaining together haymakers. It felt like she was just exploding in the room every 2 seconds. And as for QB, it ends up being her worst round. I think this is something that carries into QB's third, is she gets a little bit more back to the shock value disrespect. More into the, making fun of her appearance, talk about E Heart's a slut, and then, like, could you imagine her as a squirter? Why would I want to do that? why would we want to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a strange approach. It's to get like, ooh, that's disgusting, shock value, and I feel like that's moving away from what QB's done great. She's been great with the punches, good with the angles. When she does disrespect, it's a little bit of a career one. I think versus Caution, she said name flip over name flip about somebody who's nameless. That's a good way to kind of break someone down while being simple, not getting overly sexual over the top. Smoked the second round. So Ehart clearly won the second. First is debatable. I personally edged her, so I got her winning by now, but it could be 1-1. And then you get into the third. I see some people calling this one debatable. And I just don't really know how I feel about that. I feel like Ehart pretty clearly won the third as well. Bit of a different approach, though. She raps. It's a very talk to her soul type round. Her career, her style, even her appearance. She gets into a little bit of that QB appearance kind of roasting bag. But she's still rapping. I mean, really rapping her ass off. But this time, the crowd doesn't interrupt her too much. She had some PK makers they did. The QB will never get a ring like Dan Marino. That was fire. She had one other bar in the third. I can't remember right now, but I know it hit heavy. But they let her rap through, and letting someone do like a career breakdown, but just straight through and letting that momentum build, for me, it made it more cold. For me, it made that approach even better. It's a true talking to her soul round. And as QB goes in the third, once again, kind of like her second. I think that there's some good back-to-back punches, maybe a little bit better than her second round was, but leans again on the disrespect and roasting. I just don't feel like this is the type of battle. You've been doing so good not doing that. Then you get against Ehart, who is a writer, and I don't want to hear, oh, it's part of QB's style. Like, there's a way to do it and not do it bad. There's a way to do disrespect and not do it bad. And I feel like in the second, the third, it's reaching more into shock value than it is some of the better things I've seen from QB this year. So I had Ehart clearly winning the second and the third of this battle. I think the first can go either way. I ain't mad at no one giving it to QB. I didn't think QB was terrible, but I just think you get a rare, like a vintage Ehart, and then you get a QB that's kind of reverting back to some of her older stuff. Not as bad, but just a little bit of that, and you couldn't have a slip against a performance like that. I thought Ehart was easily the performer of the night. And then before we get into the actual review for Jazz and K, we'll talk about C3 and Clips real quick. Gotta give Clips credit, man. He was marginally better than he's been this year, right? Like, I don't think this was a great Clips, but I think his first is definitely his opener. About the C3 was good. I think his first round's pretty good. The scheming, obviously, is where more of the laziness shows. Did not like the porno scheme. Did not like the second round that was like multiples of 3, or what, you know, what he was going for there to the Kobe bar is 3 times everything, like, you know, the times table round, we'll call it that. I didn't think that was the craziest. And the third is an entire media scheme. But, you know, they've been, we dropped an article on him. I know people have been giving him pushback for the QB performance, but I've literally heard Clips do media schemes before. So on a creativity front, I don't think Clips did too much more than usual. There's definitely a little bit more effort, but you know, you look at C3 and her first is just not good. I feel like this is what you're seeing a little bit more with C3, a lot of bit more with C3 versus Flames. I thought it was like this, where it's just overall there's just kind of like giveaway rounds. Like, she's jabbing, she's rapping, but it just doesn't seem like that powerful with that too much intent to kill. I will say I liked her second and her third, and for me personally on the first watch, I edged her the third and gave her the second round. Definitely got the second round in my opinion. I think that she did really good. The approaches, she did the whole scheme of like the Harlem snitches. I thought that was right. And as you get into the third, she has a good rebuttal. Clips had a pretty good rebuttal in the second too. The whole, your wife can't get you pregnant. I mean, it landed good. I don't know how much sense it made, you know what I'm saying? But haymakers are haymakers. Even though if I don't like it that much, I got to respect Clips' work in the building, which he did way better than C3. As you get into the third, not a fan of either of theirs. Like I said, I don't really like his media scheme. That's not that. We've heard a lot of blogger schemes. Getting caps thrown at me by Angry Fan. I mean, that's not what he said, but we've heard these types of things before. And her third, it starts out a little bit creative with the whole Clips not trying and angling at that a little bit. But overall, her energy wasn't there like that. I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, it was another one of Clips, another act of terror, an attack on hip-hop by Clips. It wasn't that. I think it's an okay battle. Many people are going to give Clips the first and the third, and I can't be mad at that. I personally gave C3 the second and the third on first watch, but it's a battle that not too much to go back and replay overall, and at least we see Clips taking it a little bit more serious, and maybe the bigger, more important matchups, you know, for the few that he has left, maybe you get a serious Clips, but hopefully we just get less of what we've seen pretty much most of this year from Charlie. But I did have C3 winning that battle, 2-1 edge. It's okay. And then from there, we can get into what really mattered the most in this card, what this card was built around, and that is the main event of Jazz versus Bigg K. And as you get into the first round, we're just going to start out. It starts on Jazz, and Jazz's first round, like it has been all year, has been punch-heavy first rounds and winning dominantly. And I don't think that changed here. She goes first, but she has whoever quinceañera. It's obviously a quinceañera bar. Kind of stretched the wordplay, but was able to. I'll give him 15. So wraps it back around. Pretty good punch on the K flip. Change. She takes before she gets into her next bar. She kind of has like a little shot at Remy, saying she'll battle Remy, whatever. I think it was more like comedy, get the energy going. It was okay. The Zaya Wade, just switch agenda like Zaya Wade. I thought that was good. Has a drug breakdown talking about K's always doing drug bars, and she's like, you know what? I know real trappers in NY. You know what really scuffs they Tims? When the butter is stepped on. That was fire. Obviously, I'm saying the Tims are called the butters, so I really like that. I didn't like the alphabet bar too much. It was like a bar about the letters C and K and saying that we don't need K because there's already someone that sounds like him. Ka. I get it. I think it was clever, and there's definitely like a good concept in there. A little bit long on the build-up, and really any alphabet letter sound out bar, it's kind of already going to have a bit of a bad connotation. It wasn't just a straight bad bar, but wasn't the biggest fan. And then she gets into a pocket to end her round, which you saw her really do versus Twerk with the Gotti Illuminati. This Gotti called him a body. She does her own little version of that here against K. I thought it was really good. So overall, not as explosive as her first versus Nitty or her first Twerk, but I thought it was a fire round. And K's first, I remembered being pretty good live. I thought it was even a little worse in the playback. I think he starts out kind of dry with the disrespect, which we're going to talk about specifically, definitely when we get to the end of this battle more. But he takes, for the most part, a very, what you expect, which I've seen a lot with male battlers in their first intergender battle. Like, I'm just going to disrespect her. I'm just going to shit talk her appearance, what the woman's value to the world. And it starts very, very early. But he does get into the, y'all got me out the blue room because y'all put Remy in the red. That was fire. That was fire. I'm going to treat these bitches worse than Vague, Babs, and Debo. Thought that was pretty fire. And then he is the big-headed NBA jam bar. And that's it. That's the first. So there's a couple good punches. Like I said, the Remy in the red bar, haymaker. I like it. I think he catches a little bit of a flurry at the end of the first. But overall, I thought it was just a light K round. Looked more like his Sharon rounds than the other dominant performances he's had this year. And once again, I thought Jazz was up a super clear 1-0 like she has been most of the year going into the second round. And then we get back on the Jazz in the second, and this is where I think overall the battle takes a dip. And I think for the most part, the second and the third of this battle is what makes it, in my opinion, a really lackluster main event. And you get into Jazz having actually a rebuttal. Kay had a bar about her being shaped like a teenage boy. She said banana clip for all the curves that I don't got. Pretty good rebuttal. And then she gets in this little angle, right? We've known Jazz this year starts out punching, but will angle more as the battle goes on, especially towards the end. She's talking about, you got no signature event, Nitty got volume, such and such has got this. And then she like repeats a bar really quick, like back to back repeats it, but she's in the middle of a pocket, so like everyone's listening. And it just throws her off, and she chokes. And I know some people would have called it a hard stumble, but she went dead silent. And then she just kind of looked at the ground for about 7 to 8 seconds, a hard 7 to 8 seconds. And it's not like the most egregious. Obviously, we've seen way worse chokes. Most chokes are worse than that. But about 10 seconds of just silence, completely lost the place in the middle of the pocket, really made the energy weird. And what's crazy is the rest of her second, I think, is pretty good. She is the Keith Lee bar following that. In the car with a mill and a judge, like Keith Lee, fire. The dog ears, 7-1. We've heard a few dog ears bars, but I thought that was pretty good. She brings back the scroll from the twerk battle. She obviously had the long scroll that had all the people twerk choked against, and what a surprise, she brought it back with a long list of people that Bigg K has blocked on Twitter, which are probably on that list. But she goes, the Bigg K, you blocked all these VA people, you blocked Miss VA on MLK Day, wrap that together with a bigotry bar. Thought that was cool. You know what I'm saying? I don't take points away from the scroll being done twice, like in back-to-back battles from her. I just don't think it was executed as good. I don't think it was executed bad, but I just don't think it was executed nearly as good as it was versus Twerk. So the bigotry bar was cool, and as you get to the end, she has the narcissist. She tries to use the word narcissist, but just kind of mispronounces it. Creates a funny moment, a stumble, but more of like a tongue twister than it is like a memory stumble or anything like that. But yeah, and she choked in the second as K goes. He counter-writes the mud duck angle, which obviously he's heard before. I thought this was an extremely risky approach, and I thought the way he started it was a little bit weird. He said, well, no, he had the, I wasn't talking about black women when I said mud duck. I was only talking about the women that you're related to, the women in your family. So it is hard disrespect. It is a little bit of a turner. I thought it was an okay bar, but then from there he gets in the whole the weave over the braids, and he was going hard on the straight disrespect. Doesn't sit on it too long, but for a minute there, I'm like, this can't possibly be the approach. From there, he gets into the, you've had a COTY run, but I wouldn't know because I'm not watching women's battles. Cool. You know what's better than being the best woman? Being a man. Funny enough here, now K kind of loses his place. I mean, you could see it visually. I'd say, though, the difference here is K kind of repeats the bar 2 or 3 times. About a 4 to 5 second span. It kind of lets it bleed into the crowd reaction. Like the crowd is still kind of reacting from his last bar a little bit, and they don't really notice that it's a stumble. And it definitely is a stumble. There's no question about that. But there's gonna be people saying, "Oh, it's the same amount of time as Jazz and this and that." I don't equate the two of them what they did. Don't get me wrong. K's second is not that good from there either. He is the female battle rap having lower standards. The male battle rap works on the ghostwriting angle. Women be having ghostwriters, and we don't even care. And then leads that into the brownstone bar. I could have had waves too. The amount of times I had brushes with the law. Cool. Definitely ends on a better note, similar to his first, but not the craziest round. And if it wasn't for the fact that I think Jazz, like I said, her stumble and slip up is more of a choke than it is a stumble, and clearly optically was worse, I'd be saying this was more of a debatable round. But I thought even with a bit of a weaker round, K kind of steals one here, and it's 1-1 going into the third. And that leaves us with the last round of the battle, the third, what it comes down to, and not a good third from either of them, I'll just tell you right now. Jazz starts out with the COTY comparison, which is a big talking point in this battle. You've heard it a few times. It's now no problem with it. It's what the battle's really booked off of. And she's talking about you're so, isn't it funny how a R&B artist is front runner to be #1 in the year URL's most hated? Talks about you're so anti-smack, your style is all punches, which is actually kind of funny. You're so anti-smack, but you turn around and block pages. So I kind of like this anti. It's a very angle-heavy third. Another thing, she had punch-heavy first. She's had angle-heavy thirds. Had it versus Twerk. Had it versus Nitty. Has it here versus K. The Waffle House, you got to fight to work here bar. I thought that was dope. And then I think this is where it tails off a little bit. She does a lot of breaking down K, saying, the minority that a woman is in battle rap and how they'd rather give COTY to a white man over a black woman. Talking about one point she brought up that I thought was good was the pulling out phone thing. When 40 pulled out a phone, she's ruining female battle rap. When he does it versus Reed Dollars, nobody really cares. I think those were some really good height. That was a really good contradiction, you know what I'm saying, to bring up there. I thought that was dope. But it is a bit of a stumbly round. I mean, this is the least clean Jazz that I've ever seen. It's not egregious. I think she has about 3 to 4 stumbles in here. Some worse than others too. So for the most part, it might be 1 or 2 stumbles, not chokes. Just stumbles, kind of getting tied up on her words. But it's definitely worth noting in a round that towards the end, I think, gets a little bit worse. I think the comparison between men and women just gets it just doesn't hit as much. She has kind of a shot at Remy. Like, what do you know about somebody starting a league for your gender and then immediately switching it because y'all aren't making enough money? And I get, like, kind of what she's going at, but I think K had a bar about that in the first. It's kind of almost like a self-affecting bar. I just think it becomes a really dry round towards the end of the third. And for the fact that it's funny, Jazz is an amazing angler. In my opinion, probably the best angler in female battle rap history, if not just one of the flat-out best ever. But her punches were just way better than her approaches in this battle. I think her first, even some of her punches in the second are some of her best, the Keith Lee bar. But as she gets into the third, even not just because of the stumbles, but I just think it's a weak round. And then K goes, and he's not doing too much either, man. He starts out with the virgin angle, like, oh yeah, you popped out, and your best bar was I be getting fucked now. Like, I thought it's definitely more comedy-based for the most part, this whole third is, but it was okay. The bar I did like from K in the third, it starts going in not just on Jazz, but it's kind of around towards like the stereotypes, maybe the trends and behaviors of women in the modern age. Y'all get online and download a personality. I like that. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that bar was fire. I know a lot of people out here getting their personality from Twitter. Man and woman, to be perfectly honest with you, but obviously hits in the intergender format. Y'all be trying so much to make a one night stand last. She's only yours until the right man asks. So once again, it's not really like at Jazz, but in the nature of an intergender battle, he did a lot of disrespect. I think this is some of the better stuff that he had in that realm, in that lane of material. And then he kind of ends off the round like not too much to talk about here, right? He gets in the 911 operator angle where he kind of just jokes on her, where he's like, I could be bleeding, dying, brains leaking, can't feel nothing from the jaw down, and 911 and Jazz gonna be on the phone like, sir, I need you to calm down. Thought that was funny as hell, not gonna lie to you. Not a good third though, not a crazy third, very standard. I think both of them in a pretty weak battle, this is their weakest round. But in a round that's that kind of close content-wise, the stumbles from me from Jazz got to have some separation. And in a round where neither of them were too great, I like the download a personality bar, and she was obviously less clean. So for that, I ended up edging K to third and giving him the battle 2-1. And that is my full review here for Chrome 23 Cancel Christmas. Obviously, as you can hear, I'm a little down on the event. Like I said, more of a 5 or 6 out of 10. You could be leaning towards 6 to be generous, but you have the first battle with Taz and Shiest. It's not all that good. E-Heart gives a very good performance versus QB, kind of the highlight of the night. I think QB is solid too, so even though I have it lopsided, in a way it becomes battle of the night, kind of by default, like I said. Clips versus C3, it's okay. And then K versus Jazz is underwhelming. It may be just okay, but for me, I thought it was a pretty bad battle. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it might be, and I confidently say this, the weakest versions of Jazz and Bigg K that we've seen this year. Might be some fatigue playing in. We saw K kind of dipping towards the end of the Young Ill battle. Now you see him dipping a little bit more versus Sharon, although that's debatable. And now you see another dip here where it's going to be debatable to many. It is kind of, it is a close battle, but it's just not too much to talk about for either. And you could really debate true winner of this battle is Twerk, right? And kind of the lane it's going to open up, put even a little bit more importance on that Mook battle and what it can do for his 2023 COTY case. But overall, just to go over it one more time, I got Taz 3-0, I got QB 3-0. I got C3 2-1 second and third, and I also had Bigg K 2-1 second and third, and it really comes down more to Jazz losing the battle than I feel like Bigg K really going snatching out there and winning the battle. But you guys let me know your thoughts on this card. Obviously we got Queen of the Ring here later today. Gonna have to do all types of coverage for that, and then Homecoming tomorrow, which as you would imagine, gonna try to instantly have my recap up for that one if I can. I'm gonna be trying to on top of that. But it's been J Smo Reviews again, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. Like I said, let me know what you thought of Cancel Christmas. I'm gonna catch you on the next one, man. Peace.